Welcome to Whimsy Woven Stories, where imagination takes flight and every tale is a journey into wonder. Dad gave me some wise words when I started dating. He said, "Son, respected men do not tolerate any disrespect, manipulation, or lies from girls or women. Stay true to yourself and always be a respected man." Bad news, honey. The merger meeting just got rescheduled, and I need to leave tomorrow morning, won't be back until Sunday night. I know how important this wedding is to you, especially since you're the bride's maid of honor. You have to understand, I've just been promoted to financial director and I can't miss this meeting because it's crucial for the company and our future. You'll have to go without me, sorry. Are you serious? You know how long we've been planning this, and now, at the last minute, you're canceling everything. And I'll be there alone. Do you even realize how awkward it will be for me? Can't anyone else go instead of you? Vera, this deal is valued at over $2 billion, and I'm leading this project. You know how hard we've worked on this for the past year, and no one else can take my place. Too many people's jobs depend on our success. I'm sorry, I know it's tough, and I'll make it up to you with the bonus money we'll get from this deal. I know you're angry, but I couldn't do anything about it. I'll be back on Sunday. To say she was angry would be an understatement. She stopped talking to me and told me to sleep in the guest room. No closeness or intimacy before my trip. It was abnormal. Her coldness and anger were also uncharacteristic. I tried to understand, but couldn't ease her anger, so I packed for the trip and slept in the guest room that night. That I knew the wedding was important to her because of all the hardships her friend Carol had gone through her entire life. Her ex-husband cheated on her during her life-threatening illness and left her because he couldn't bear to watch her slow death. He acted cowardly. It devastated Carol and did nothing to improve her situation. But after a miraculous recovery, Carol filed for divorce because she was abandoned, and she spent the next 5 years in depression. All her friends and family were there for her, trying to cheer her up, but to no avail. Then, one day, she met a guy at the grocery store, and her world blossomed. She became herself again. The prayers of her friends and family were heard, and everyone wanted to celebrate the joyful event. Brandon, her fiancé, deeply loved her and planned this amazing wedding. Vera was her best friend and maid of honor. She was always there for her friend. I knew it was important to Vera, and I didn't want to cancel, but I couldn't do anything. I knew I would have to make it up to her and somehow reconcile with her anger. Before leaving for my trip the next morning, I tried to kiss Vera goodbye, but the door to our bedroom was locked, and she wasn't going to open it for me. I told her I loved her and would call her when I landed in Germany. With no response, I sadly headed towards the waiting limousine that took me to the airport. I felt terrible and unhappy because of her actions and her lack of understanding of my situation. After 19 years of marriage, I expected more tolerance and care. That I called her before departure, but her cell phone went straight to voicemail. I left her another message apologizing once again, hoping for a response. I sent another message before takeoff and another when I landed 10 hours later. Still, no response, no voicemails, no texts. I knew she was angry and that I would have to apologize for a long time to regain her favor. With no other choice, I called our twin daughters in college and told them about my trip and how my work plans had changed, that their mom was angry with me and not answering my calls. I asked them not to say anything and just to check on her to make sure she was okay. That I was worried about her and would feel much better if they could tell me she was okay. They understood and told me they loved me. They had always been Daddy's girls, and I loved them very much. Germany. Upon reaching the hotel, I called my CEO to get the latest news, and to my horror, the meeting had just been cancelled because a family member of the CEO of another company had passed away, and the meeting would have to be rescheduled. I immediately called the airline and booked a direct flight to Chicago, which was only a 30-minute drive from the venue of the ceremony. Since the wedding reception began at 7 p.m., I decided that I could arrive there by 9 p.m. and be a good husband. I was confident that it would make her happy. After renting a car, the GPS guided me to the reception hall. It was just past 9 when I entered the reception, and the celebration was in full swing. The music was loud, everyone was dancing, and alcohol was flowing freely. There were many drunk people having fun and enjoying the celebration. It was truly a joyful event, and I was happy to be present and really wanted to be with my wife. There were over 200 people at the reception, and I couldn't see Vera when I walked in. I approached the open bar and ordered a double bourbon, stepped aside, and scanned the crowd for my wife. I reflected on our past and how we got here. Vera was 5 years older than me and had recently divorced when we met. Her ex-husband, Dr. Clayton Adams, was a resident at Mercy Hospital when they divorced. Dr. Clayton, as he liked to be called, was caught cheating with one of the nurses at the hospital. When Vera found out about it, she kicked him out, devastated by his betrayal. She wanted children and a happy life, but this jerk shattered her dreams. She divorced him, and after the divorce, she was depressed and broke because the locals earned little money, and the divorce simply divided their property. She became a waitress and barely made ends meet. Thanks to this episode in her life, she knew firsthand what Carol felt. When I met Vera, it was love at first sight. I fell head over heels for this woman. Perhaps she was broken and suppressed, but I knew she was a diamond in the rough. I saw her obvious beauty, but fell in love with her heart and her caring nature. I saved her from herself, turned her life upside down, and gave her 19 wonderful years filled with the love of our twin daughters. Vera appreciated my serious approach to relationships. We constantly discussed loyalty and commitments, which made her feel safe. I made it clear to her that I was a faithful partner and would never tolerate infidelity, and praised her for leaving her cheating husband, no matter how difficult it was. I explained that many people would put up with it to save the marriage or stay financially secure, and I was proud of her ability to move on. This was the foundation of our marriage. Trust, loyalty, and determination. Before this damn wedding, I lived a wonderful life, completely satisfied and in love. Vera looked great for her age of 44, but I was 5 years younger and in excellent shape. In fact, at the age of 39, I was in my prime. Thanks to my regular workouts at the gym and 5 kilometers runs, I was at the peak of my performance. She had an amazing body, and we were fantastic in bed. With our age difference, there were no problems, and we rarely discussed it over the years. We raised 2 wonderful twin daughters, Marcia and Carrie, who were now in college, 4 hours away from home. They were happy and enjoying college life, preparing for their future. We had a great family and a stable marriage, or so I thought, until I saw my wife sitting alone with Clayton, her ex-husband. I knew Clayton was Carol's friend, the bride, but I didn't expect him to be at the wedding, let alone be here alone, without his wife. Tired from the journey and intrigued by what I saw, I stood and watched them sitting alone. I was shocked by how friendly they seemed as they talked about their past. I decided to observe for a few minutes to understand exactly what they were doing. It didn't take long for my world to shatter that I was about to approach them and interrupt their love fest, but before I could make my move, she got up, took his hand, and led him to the dance floor. She looked stunning in that ivory-colored figure-hugging dress, and my heart raced towards her, praying it was nothing more than a dance. Her looseness shocked me as they danced to a few slow songs. I sipped my drink and waited to see what would happen next. I could tell Vera was tipsy by the way she flirted, which wasn't uncommon after a few shots. She had always been excited and flirtatious with me, which was normal. What was abnormal was that she was kissing another man who wasn't me, and doing it openly in front of her friends. Everyone knew she was married to me, and it infuriated me even more. I felt humiliated and enraged watching my wife lavish her affections elsewhere. Still frozen in shock, my blood now boiled as I watched him openly grab her rear and kiss her, and she reciprocated. My anger grew, and just as I was about to approach and intervene, they returned to the table and sat aside. They began kissing like a honeymooning couple, and I distinctly saw his hands on her chest, and her hand under the table. Just before I was about to confront them, I realized my marriage was over. I recalled my father's words, respected men do not tolerate disrespect, and I decided to act, but without resorting to violence. I could have caused a scene, ruined the perfect wedding ceremony, stopped them, and prevented further developments, but why? I thought if she wants him, she can have him. She's not mine anymore. With a strange calmness, I pulled out my phone, zoomed in, took several close-up photos, a short video, and then sent her a text message. Great news, dear, the meeting got postponed, and I'm back, but it seems today you're in good hands. I'm heading home, and I guess you'll be spending the night with Dr. Clayton. Now I understand why you didn't answer my calls and texts. Well, enjoy yourself and savor the demise of our marriage. Tomorrow, when you return home, I won't be there anymore. I pressed send and calmly watched, wondering if she would pick up her phone and read the message. As I watched, I saw a notification light up on her phone. She noticed it glowing on the table and picked it up. Then she started tapping on some buttons, obviously looking for the message. Vera seemed to sober up quickly, as I saw her expression turn serious. Once I saw her reaction, I headed from the registration desk to my car. Vera must have panicked and seen me leaving, but I dashed out onto the street before she could reach me. As I opened the door of my car, I heard her shout, "Tony, please, wait." Casting her a cold glance, I simply shook my head, got into my car, and drove off the parking lot before she could reach me. My phone immediately started ringing, but I wasn't in a state to answer the call, let alone speak to her. If she wanted to be with her ex, then it was over between us. Hell, after what I just saw, it was over between us anyway. 22 years after divorcing that cheating jerk, she's running back into his arms at the first opportunity. Well, she'll have to explain it all to the family and the kids because that's all on her conscience. Dozens of frantic text messages began flooding my phone. "Tony, please, come back. Let me explain. I love you, please, come back. Damn it, Tony, it wasn't what it seemed. I love you." But after 2 days of 10-hour flights, 2 days of unanswered calls and messages, cold treatment, and watching her with Clayton, I wasn't in the mood to listen to her apologies. In fact, I was angrier than ever and didn't want anything to do with her or her nonsense. After 20 phone calls and messages, I stopped and sent her one response. The text I sent read, "Go to hell." My job was going great, my kids were in college, which was already funded, and I had no ties. I was still young enough to start over. Halfway back to Nashville, I stopped at a diner to grab a bite and take a nap in the car before continuing home, eating eggs and bacon. I decided to let the world know exactly how I felt. Between bites, I changed my social media status from happily married to single. Then I posted 2 photos I took, showing Vera and Clayton kissing passionately at the wedding. In the second photo, everyone could clearly see his hand on her chest. Under the photo, I explained that Vera was bargaining and going back to her ex-husband, and that now I was back on the market. Yes, it was immature, but in my opinion, it was the truth. I was moving on, without her. The funniest part was that Clayton, her ex, was nearly 50 years old. He was balding, overweight, and, not to be vain, but he wasn't an upgrade in any sense of the word. What the hell was she thinking, leaving us for some old worn-out dude who had already cheated on her? Maybe she wanted to be with a doctor, not an accountant. Honestly, it hurt. Actually, it hurt a lot. At that moment, I felt more pain than I could ever remember. I was sad and angry, but it also made me laugh at the absurd situation. She was destroying her 19-year marriage for an old man who cheated on her over 20 years ago. Screw her and screw him. They can have each other, they deserve each other. I wasn't one of those guys who would tolerate such disrespect. I'm sure there are plenty of guys who would say it was just a kiss and a few touches, and that there's no reason to leave her. Sorry, but in my world, either my woman is loyal to me, or she's free to be with someone else. We all live with our choices. After a late breakfast and a 2-hour nap in the car, I hit the road again and pulled into my driveway at 7 in the morning. When I turned on my phone, it started ringing with dozens of notifications. There were so many that I didn't think they would ever stop. There must have been over 100 messages from her, her parents, sister, and friends. 5 minutes after turning on my phone, it started ringing, and I noticed it was Vera. I wondered if she had slept at all last night or spent it with Clayton. It didn't matter, I just ignored her calls because now it was all in the past, and I was focused only on getting what I needed from the house and moving on. That I got along well with her family, and when they called me that morning, I answered their call and explained to her father what had happened. James, I had no idea she was unhappy in our marriage, but the affair was a deadly blow to our happy life. The disrespect she showed in front of people we know is something I cannot tolerate. No, it was evident that she still has feelings for that jerk, and now she can be with him. I intend to find a woman who will appreciate what I can offer and remain faithful. James, I have no other choice. I'm moving out today and immediately putting the house up for sale. Tomorrow morning, I'll contact a lawyer to file for divorce. She can live here until the house sells, and I'll be fair to her in the divorce. Call me old-fashioned, but I won't live with a woman who wants to be with someone else. She made her choice, but I don't believe she acted wisely this time. James arrived an hour later and pleaded with me to wait and talk to her before crossing the line. After he asked me to give her a chance to explain, I told him to look at that photo again and see how openly they caressed each other at the wedding. I would never stand for that, and doing it with her ex was just another slap in the face to me. Her father was disappointed in her actions and my decision to act so swiftly and decisively. When I entered our house, I felt tears welling up, realizing that our happy home was no longer a home but merely a shell of our marriage. Over the past 5 years, we had spent transforming our house into the perfect sanctuary. Back then, mortgage rates were below 2.99%, and the value of our home had doubled. As the account holder, I decided to refinance the house at full value and withdrew nearly $500,000 of equity from the house. I immediately set up a trust fund of $200,000 for each of our daughters' college education and a little extra to give them a good start in life. We took the remaining $100,000 and renovated the house, turning it into a showcase that we both loved and were proud of. Thanks to the lower interest rate, the monthly payment was only $1,700 more than before we leveraged the equity. It was manageable, and Vera returned to work as a secretary to offset the additional monthly payment that I had a good salary. Nothing crazy, but as the newly appointed financial director, I was set to receive stock options next year that would serve as our retirement fund. Vera was never involved in our finances and showed no interest until she got what she wanted, trusting my financial knowledge and living a carefree life. I tried to explain what stock options were a few times, but I saw her eyes glaze over, and she never really understood. Since it didn't matter, I just chuckled to myself about her lack of interest. No big deal, I was optimistic about our future. This merger, which apparently coincided with the end of my marriage, was supposed to bring me a bonus in the form of stock options ranging from 40,000 shares in case of success. Of course, I would have to wait several years to exercise the options, but the expectation that the stock price would reach $100 per share filled me with confidence in the future. Since the merger was suspended, the options would not be part of the divorce settlement. I was planning to file for irreconcilable differences and simply divide our assets. This amounted to about $50,000 in our savings account. We would split the sale of the house, but with the full utilization of the loan funds, there would be nothing to divide. At 44 years old, Vera would leave with her car and $25,000. If she had remained faithful, she would have lived a happy life with a secure future. Her world was about to be rocked because my anger and humiliation overshadowed all the love and memories that were buried deep in my soul. All I wanted now was revenge, and for her to understand what she had given up. Nightmare of Vera. I hadn't seen Clayton in 20 years, and it brought back so many memories, both good and bad. He was a good husband until he cheated on me and ended our marriage. We always had chemistry and great sex, but he didn't compare to Tony. My husband was much more handsome, an excellent lover, and and I love him dearly. But why am I sitting here with Clayton, letting him touch me and kiss me? I know it's wrong, but I kept flirting. I definitely overdid it with the drinks, but Tony was supposed to be here. God, I should have been smarter and stopped this, but it feels so good. For some reason, he still felt like a kindred spirit, and a little flirting wouldn't hurt anyone. Plus, Clayton is divorced now, and Tony didn't bother to change his trip to be here, with me, where he belongs. He knew how important this wedding was to me, so I guess I owe it to myself to have a little fun. After another kiss, I felt warm inside. We can play a little here, in this secluded spot. Everyone's drunk, and I'm sure no one will see us. Just a few kisses and touches, nothing more. I'll make up with Tony when he gets back. There's a text message blinking on my phone. All my friends are here, maybe it's Tony checking in. Oh God, Tony says he's here. I don't see him. Wait, is he leaving now? Damn it, I need to reach him. Did he just see me kissing Clayton? Damn, this is bad. Turning to the embarrassed Clayton, I said, "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom," desperately rushing out of the reception area. I saw the exit door closing down the hallway and ran as fast as I could in my high heels. Oh God, that's Tony, and he saw me with Clayton. Tony, wait, please. No response, he just got into his car. I tried to run after him, but he drove away. Now he's not answering calls. How many text messages have I sent him, and he's not responding? He's angry, and I don't blame him. After several more calls and dozens of messages, my heart broke when I finally got his only response, "Go to hell." Two of my friends found me kneeling on the street in the freezing cold and asked what happened. When I explained it to them, they were shocked by my actions and worried that I got caught. They know Tony is stubborn, and if he saw us together, I would be in trouble. Tony, 10 a.m., home in Nashville. Gathering my belongings, I sat down at the kitchen table and drank the last cup of coffee in the house we had created together. I was filled with sadness and anger as I placed the empty cup in the sink. I left a short note on the table, asking her not to call me and that we would talk once the divorce papers were ready. I didn't bother to sign the note and simply placed my wedding ring on top of the paper. Before leaving for the last time, I opened my laptop and divided our assets, as well as canceled our joint credit card after paying off the balance. From today onwards, she was on her own. If she fought the divorce, she could simply pay all the bills herself. She could afford the mortgage and utilities on her own. The house would be in demand and would sell quickly at the right price. If she didn't resist the divorce, we could quickly end this sham of a marriage, and she could return to her beloved Clayton. I left my former sanctuary for the dark unknown of a new world. Later, I heard from my friends at the wedding that after I left, Vera was in despair. They couldn't get her to stop crying until she finally passed out from drinking and exhaustion from uncontrollable sobbing. Her friends felt terrible and were worried about Vera. They called me several times, leaving voicemails and text messages asking me to call back. To prevent her from ruining the wedding reception, the girls took her back to the hotel room, tucked her into bed, and checked on her several times throughout the night. When she woke up early in the morning and remembered what happened, she tried to call me again and again, begging for forgiveness and asking me to please call back. I didn't want to have anything to do with her after what I witnessed and never answered her calls or messages. Vera returns home. On Sunday morning, Vera woke up with a severe hangover and the fear of divorce. She flew home at noon, and her dad met her at the airport. Later, she learned that Tony told her father that he wouldn't pick her up, and she needed a ride. Judging by her father's concerned face, she must have looked awful. Her dad was her rock, and when she saw him there, she rushed to him and hugged him, crying into his shoulder. "Dad, I messed up, and I think Tony will leave me." With a sad face, he quietly turned to his suffering little girl. "I talked to him this morning, and it doesn't look very good. You know Tony. What the hell were you thinking? And with Clayton? I don't know what I was doing. I was drunk and angry at Tony because he didn't come to the wedding. I know I messed up, but he should forgive me, Daddy. I never even had sex with him. Sweetie, judging by the pictures I saw, you could have easily had sex with him. I'm not sure he's the type of guy who forgives too quickly. You know Tony, and being with another man the way you were in those pictures was a betrayal to him. As she entered the house, she prayed that Tony would be there waiting for her, but knowing Tony, she knew he had long gone. She spent the rest of the day in tears, reaching out to Tony's mobile phone in hopes that he would at least talk to her and give her a chance to apologize. She realized the irony of the situation when she cheated on Tony with a man who had cheated on her so many years ago. Tony, the only man she loved, and the life she cherished seemed to be shattered in an instant, confirmed by his engagement ring in the short note left on the table. Tony's day continues. Meanwhile, I moved into the company apartment used for out-of-town clients. Since no one was planning to use the apartment, I called my CEO, and he agreed for me to stay there after I told him this story. My CEO Bill is a good friend, and he went through something similar many years ago. In fact, he suggested I put off options for this year to save them for the future. The next day, I went to my office on the 16th floor. Vera wouldn't have passed through security if she came to work with me, and I gave strict instructions for security to remove her from the building if she showed up. They handled their job well, and when she did show up on Monday, she was informed that there would be no interaction at work. She desperately tried to talk to me, but I didn't want to have anything to do with her. She didn't know where I was staying, and I didn't answer her calls. She was completely isolated, angry at herself, lonely, and afraid for her future, worried about their mom. I received several desperate calls from my girls. They begged me to talk to their mom. I explained that their mom made the decision to be with another man, and everyone knew how I felt about infidelity. Before they could start protesting, I explained that what she did was infidelity in my understanding. My girls knew better than to argue with me and respected my decision. I calmly tried to explain that their mom chose another man over me, and I had no further obligations to her, and our divorce was inevitable, but I would always be there for them and wanted to keep them in my life. I told them to remember this when they get married and never to disrespect their husbands or cheat on them because most men wouldn't tolerate that level of disrespect. Funny things happened after my post on social media. Besides all my friends and relatives calling me to ask for explanations, I became popular among women. Suddenly, I found myself on the market and started interacting with women much younger, with the rule to live by: before you do me wrong, make sure I'll never need you again. As we conclude our journey into the world of human relationships, please remember to subscribe, like, and share our content. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next story.